from Belushi to what your grow needs. Please welcome our moderator of today's discussion. She's the CCO of Gentech Scientific. Let's hear it for Yvette Pagano.
Hello. All right. So I guess I'll introduce my fellow panelists. So Travis Schwartz, CEO of Growglide, please come to the stage. Tony MacDonald, CEO of CEA Industries. Dave Cohen, CEO of Fluence. And last but certainly not least, Michael Hennessey from IMA Financial Group, National Cannabis Advisor. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So the theme of this panel is what technology you need in 2023 for your grow. You know, what do you need to embrace? What are the trends? So I did introduce everyone, but just real briefly, I'm going to have each person say their name, company, and just maybe a one sentence, this is what we do, this is the technology we're offering the industry. So we'll start on the end with Travis.
Thanks, Yvette. Again, I'm Travis Schwartz with Growglide. We build indoor vertical farming solutions from multi-tier racking to airflow, and soon to be some software solutions.
Tony MacDonald, CEO of CEA Industries and Cerna Cultivation Technologies, which is our operating subsidiary. We do design and engineering for indoor cannabis facilities, from architectural through MEP engineering to environmental control to the associated technologies needed for a grow.
I'm David Cohen. I'm the CEO of Fluence. Fluence is based in Austin, Texas. We're part of a global lighting company called Signify, which is about an $8 billion global lighting company. We've been in business since 2014, service LED lighting system installations, design, develop, and build all over the world. We have installations in something over 1,000 customers, primarily all cannabis.
My name is Michael Hennessey. I've run the cannabis practice for IMA Financial Group. We're a large independent insurance firm headquartered in Denver, about 1,900 professionals. We've been supporting the cannabis industry for 10 years and happy to be here.
Okay, so I just wanted to get a clarifier to Michael. So you're insurance, right? But I think this audience should know that you're legit. So you've been in, what, hundreds of grows?
Yeah, we work with a number of organizations. I think the last noteworthy one was about 1.9 million square feet. They've been a client of ours for a couple of years now, and we do a significant amount of work in the space.
Okay, so he's seen a lot of things. So I'm just gonna ask these guys sort of for like best examples. So again, these guys are in grows, and we're talking about technology. So either your own product or where you've really seen somebody embrace technology. One of the best examples of like, wow, these guys are really moving forward. We'll start with you, Dave, where we've seen a big improvement.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw when Fluence first started, it was really convincing people that LED technology was a way to go. There was a lot of HPS lights out in the world, and it was just starting to come to be affordable, but also showing growers that by using a different type of technology to grow the plants, that they could actually get more out of what they were getting. So for us, it's just watching different customers go through the journey of embracing a technology change and really trying to understand through their eyes, you know, what their end game is, what they're trying to achieve, so then we can best tailor what we're trying to do to help them. But you know, what I would say is, you know, I started there in 2018, and there was just absolutely phenomenal growth all around the world with cannabis coming online nearly everywhere. And it was, no matter where we were, anywhere in the world servicing customers, it was always that, wow, you know, this is the new thing. You know, what do I do, and how do I implement it? So, you know, from my my perspective.
Interesting. And then Tony, what about you? I mean, your business is, you guys are, you're building, you're engineers, and so, what technology have you been able to deploy, where you're like, wow, this has really leapfrogged this company, this industry?
Sure, thanks. At Cerner, we're HVAC geeks, and a lot of us are from the HVAC industry. And what we've done is we've taken the most advanced technologies from that space and tried to bring it into the cultivation space to give the cultivator the ability to achieve the temperature and humidity and other conditions they're seeking to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of their grow. So, for example, I think we're pretty much a pioneer in bringing 2- and 4-pipe chilled water systems, which might not mean much to you, but they're advanced environmental control systems, into the space, and then we developed our own computer control system for those that are pretty unique to the space.
Okay, great answer. So the International Machine and Tool Show is happening right now, and that was actually my former industry, so it's kind of full circle. But I used to always go, and they were always like pitching me this like machine monitoring technology. And I'm like, I don't need this, like I will know the next morning if the night shift went well or not by how many parts are sitting in the part bin, And so that was a technology that never resonated with me. So for you guys, right, like there's shiny objects, there's fads, there's new things that everyone thinks they need to have to keep up with the Joneses and be this elite technology grow. In your opinion, we'll start with you, Michael, what's a fad? What's a shiny object? I don't really need this.
Well, I'm going to probably work around that question just because it doesn't impact what we do. We want to make sure whatever technology you're using or you're implementing, you communicate with it, because at the end of the day, if people are worried about fires, theft within their grow, if the carrier is familiar with that technology and they can underwrite it properly, you'll be saving money, right, on your insurance premiums. So communicating early and often with updates with whoever you work with, whether it is a new technology to mitigate risk or create efficiency, there can be benefits for you financially if you do that. So I'm not as much on the fad side, but when you're using it, it can impact your business as well from our perspective.
Fair. All right, Travis, we haven't heard much from you. What do you think? What's a shiny object that some of these growers should just not necessarily jump into?
Yeah, it's kind of a curveball question, to be honest, but I'd say that the biggest thing is just there's so many different ways of growing, right? There's many of them that work well. So if I was going to call a fad or shiny object I see is kind of people testing different types of growing. I'm a big believer in testing new types of equipment, like LED lighting, multi-tier growing environments. But most growers, I would say, should just kind of stick with the type of growing that they know, and then figuring out how to scale that into a multi-level environment to really maximize that space usage, especially in the kind of cost-prohibitive environments in the East Coast with the cost of square footage.
So Dave, this question's for you. So Fluence is very international. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then if you have any examples of maybe some technology that Europe or another country is really embracing, where you're like, wow, that's leap years ahead, or where maybe you see any kind of a break or a differentiator internationally.
Yeah, I would say that I look at it a little bit differently. It's not as much a shiny object or technology. It's that you have a space that is growing incredibly fast between cannabis, food security, leafy greens, vertical farming. The technology and advances in technology are pouring into the space very quickly. I think I would echo what Travis said. The grower really has to know what they want to do and what they want to achieve. I heard somebody say something earlier, like it's handing the keys to a car to somebody that doesn't know what to do. So I don't necessarily know that there's any technology out there that I would say it's a shiny object, don't pay attention to it, because as every month, every quarter, every year goes by, there's more and more coming into the space. What I would say is just be very careful in understanding what you are trying to achieve and what you know that you can handle. So for example, there's all kinds of data acquisition and analytics now available for a grower. You can put sensors everywhere, you can gather millions of data points.
Yeah.
Okay, then you have to analyze millions of data points and make decisions, and and you just need to know what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you're good at. So, you know, I would say to your question about what we see around the world, growers all over the world are, you know, the good growers. They know what they want to achieve. They track it down to the decimal point, and they adjust when things get a little bit out of whack, whatever technology they're using.
Okay. So, anything to add, Tony, on that?
Yeah, I think of it less in terms of a piece of hardware or, you know, the shiny object, than I think of it in terms of a trade-off. You know, you think about when you're building a facility, there can be a trade-off between speed to market and getting the facility up and running and efficiency. And the shiny object can be just get me growing as quickly as possible at the expense of long-term efficiency. And as we're finding out right now in the marketplace, that can be a bad trade-off. And it will be exposed before very long, especially as prices come down in these regulated markets.
Okay, so this is a hypothetical question. So let's say a grower receives a $100,000 grant. They get like an Excelsior grant. So they can't use it to pay down debt. They can't give it to themselves as a bonus. They've got to spend this money on something. What would you recommend that a grower who receives a windfall around 100K, what would you recommend they do with it, maybe with a technology twist? Let's start with Travis.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. I would say most growers today, probably 90% are still growing in a single-tiered environment, potentially not using LEDs. So, you know, from there's a reluctant to change. I would say if somebody was given $100,000, first thing I would do is start an R&D room, multi-tier, start using LED, you know, some of the technologies that we have here, really prove out those processes, right? If you can distill all the new technology to amplify what you're already doing and build into a systemized process that you can be followed, then at that point you should be able to put together a business plan that you can bring in investors to take that R&D facility and spread that across your kind of overall facility.
Okay. Tony, what do you feel? A grower, if they get this windfall, how would you recommend they deploy?
Yeah, the watchword I see and I keep seeing in the non-cannabis space too is automation. Got to drive out these costs. Labor and other monitoring costs, and there are technologies for irrigation, environmental, et cetera, control that will help you do that and really be able to get these costs under control for the long term.
Yeah, I would say, well, Travis said what I was going to say, so I'll say go to Growglide and take your $100,000 and buy racks. But I think you really have to look at efficiencies. You have to understand how you can get to the most efficient cost basis, and that $100,000 would be different for every different situation. I mean, I couldn't generically say. Certainly, if you don't have LED lights, you should probably consider that. But, you know, as Travis said, growing under those conditions is different. And can you handle that? Do you have that knowledge base? And if you're not ready for that, you should put that wherever you can gain efficiencies. You know, what we're seeing happen now with prices and the forces on the market, I think I would recommend to anybody either have an unbelievable brand that you can get a premium for, and if you could only do that or something else, then it would be efficiencies.
Yeah, I mean, I would say easy, just buy more insurance, right?
No, yeah, that's your softball question. Okay, besides insurance.
To the efficiency point, and David commented on his previous answer, spending money on technology without knowing how to utilize it is wasted money. So even if you come into $100,000 or whatever that is, take the time and hire or find the right consultants to make sure you're implementing this stuff efficiently. You know, the days of big rounds of funding are obviously not what they were years ago. So money's a little bit tighter. People are a little bit smarter about how they're going to spend it and use it. But I would say take the time, learn the process, surround yourself with smart people to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck.
Okay, great answer. I'm going to start with Tony on this one, but you know, cannabis, you know, it went first legally in Canada. Obviously, there was a lot of rapid building, massive expansion to, you know, do processing, and now you're hearing about, you know, some of these facilities starting to, you know, close down. As somebody who's, you know, building new builds, et cetera. What lessons can we learn from Canada? Anything you'd like to say about that?
Don't build quite so fast. We've been fortunate. We did a ton of work up in Canada, and we saw some facilities that we've had the opportunity to do on a refurbished basis where they violated what I was talking about before between speed to market and efficiency, and bid them to tunes of quite a great deal of money. So best avoided.
Anything, Dave, with Canada, any lessons learned that you've...
Yeah, I would say, well, for us, 2018 and 2019, we had an enormous amount of activity in Canada. Some of the biggest projects that we have done globally have been there. And what we saw is a mismatch between the implementation and the regulatory advancement. You had a ton of capacity and nowhere for it to go. And you know, I think that this whole pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you have to make sure you have the entire thing mapped out, not only from your internal business plan, but what the forces are acting on externally. You've got some massive producers up there that are idling facilities because you know, the demand didn't match the capacity that they bought. So that would be my input.
Travis, have your business done much in Canada? Do you have any comments, or has it been more stateside?
No, nothing really in Canada. You know, we kind of started right there, end of 2018, pandemic and things like that such. Primarily focused here in the United States. To kind of piggyback on what Tony said, I think that the learnings that from what we've seen there is to, you know, slow down, invest in the right equipment. You know, putting, you know, $1 today that'll last 10 years is way better than 90 cents today that'll only last 5 years. And I think that that is an important takeaway that most people could learn from kind of the Canadian market.
This is something that I want to know because we are at a cannabis investing conference, so it's a little bit of a different industry than pretty much any other industry. So I'm curious, you know, what's your personal relationship with the plant? We'll start with Travis.
Sure. You know, growing up, it was kind of one of those things. It was like a high school recreational use thing. I've definitely benefited from, you know, some of the more medicinal sides of it at this point. You know, it's helpful for sleep, primarily for myself.
Tony?
Yeah, I guess I'd roughly the same comments. You know, enjoy some of the medicinal benefits of the plant and use it actively.
All right, we got some authentic panelists here. Dave.
Yeah, well, I mean, I recreationally, you know, growing up, but you know, as I got older, you know, my relationship with it was walking into grows when I first took the job at Fluence and seeing just unbelievable amounts of kind of cannabis everywhere. So for me personally, it's more medicinal, if anything. I'm with these guys. Sleeping is something that I've been chasing my entire life, and you know, if I can get in the right situation and the right product, then it's really great.
Little both for me. Candidly, been consuming recreationally for a long time. A dear friend of mine was diagnosed stage 4 melanoma a month after her first son was born. Said they're not going to see the, you know, first birthday, and no Western medicine for her. High RSO treatment, infrared saunas, all natural, and so this is over, you know, about 11 years ago now, and so for me and the plant, it's kind of educational to as many as possible. And you know, growing up in Connecticut a long time ago, a little different view on cannabis than where I'm in San Francisco now. So just making people aware the plant can do a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
And then I'm just curious, more on the insurance side. So it is getting an interesting business, right? And we've got people who are legacy, and now they're trying to become legit, and they want to get insured. And so is there ever been a situation where you guys have just said, no, we're not going to take you? And maybe some tips for the audience on what that person could have done to receive some coverage or better attention?
Sure. And so, you know, we're the brokerage firm, right? We want to work with the carriers to help them secure the coverage, but making sure people are doing things above board, right? Collecting licenses, understanding what they're doing in these facilities, making sure they're staying in the legal market. And part of it's a gut feeling when you hear people say things are, You know, if people are doing things illegally, when something hits the fan, they're going to point a finger, and I don't want to be on the other side of that.
Okay, and then sort of a follow-up question. You know, I guess how do you make money, right? So is it difficult to assess fees because there's no historical data, I guess? So how do you don't want to overcharge, obviously, but you're not in the business of giving away free money, right? So how do you guys come to that equation?
It's pretty standard. Brokers have pre-negotiated commission fees with carriers. So depending on whatever you do, you can kind of assume your broker's probably, their firm's earning 10 to 12% of whatever your overall premium is. That's pretty standard regardless of the industry. These are very labor-intensive active businesses, as you all know, so a flat fee agreement's not as common just because, frankly, to support this industry from our world, it's a lot more work than Main Street business, really.
So, you know, these are pretty significant players right on the stage, and they're trying to get people to scale, and they're trying to increase operational efficiencies and just go big, and get scale, and that's really important. But my question to you is, you know, what about the little guy? Like, how do you feel about the small grower? Is there space for that individual to participate in this market along with the big, you know, massive producers who may be more consuming your products, right? So I guess I'll start with you, Travis. Like, how do you feel about those little guys who might not be able to achieve the kind of scale that would necessitate your services?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's room for everybody. I think it comes back to people knowing what they want, right, and kind of being very intentional from the beginning. I like to equate, you know, where I envision cannabis being long-term to where kind of the beer market is today. There's going to be the Coors and the Miller Lite and the Budweisers, right? And if I think maybe too many people are trying to be that person now, and in the long run, there's going to be, you know, all the craft breweries that exist everywhere, right? And they're really trying to service the small market around them. And I think as more people, that may be the outcome long term, more people kind of focus on that, and maybe they come about later, but having that kind of core, small mom and pop environment, I think has its place for sure forever, just like beer.
Yeah, Tony, probably a little smart grower's not going to engage with you, but what do you feel about that market?
Yeah, I would validate that. We're in Colorado, you know, home of the microbrew. I suppose there's a lot of microbrews everywhere, but we've got a ton of them for sure. And I think that the market will eventually move in that direction. You know, we're happy to work with anybody. You know, the bulk of our folks are new entrants to the market, and you know, happy to work with them, often on 200,000 plus square foot facilities. So happy to be a help.
Yeah, I would say that I agree with these guys. There's room for everybody. It's just, you know, being aware of what is happening right now and making sure that you absolutely know what your end game is. You know, what do you want to do? Do you want to be the most efficient and the lowest cost to produce, knowing that regardless of where pricing goes, you're going to be able to sustain it with the margins you're making? Or do you want to be a top premium brand and that gets a much higher you know, price for your product? You know, we see big, small, everything in between. You know, we've serviced massive grows and very small. And the successful people that we see know exactly what they want, and they don't waver from that, no matter how many pictures on the internet they see of huge buds and, you know, this is great and that's great. They're laser focused, and they're driven by an absolute obsession with data. What's the plant doing today? What can I do to it tomorrow to make it better?
And I think the small grows are forced by nature to be efficient, where that's probably a more common term now than it was a few years ago in the industry. How can we run an efficient business as possible rather than top line revenue? And I think the smaller organizations are kind of forced to do so. And I think there will always be a space. If they have a good product, there's a good demand for it.
Okay. Well, I have tons of more questions, but actually our time is up. So I'm going to call it, but I just want to thank these guys for their time and their expertise, and thank you for coming to our panel.
Let's hear it for our panelists one more time. Keep the applause going. As a reminder, you can get your tickets now to Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Miami. spring 2023, prices will never be as lower as they are right now. Pull out those phones, scan the QR code, act fast.